Okay, everyone. Well, we're going to get started. Welcome. I will start by introducing myself. My name is Yakira Young, and I'm the content manager at admonsters.com. And we'll go down the line.
And hey all, I'm Craig Miller. I'm the Global Solution Portfolio Lead for Advertising and Marketing at AWS.
Hello, everyone. I'm Valerie Davis. I am the North American CEO for Assembly, a media and more agency under Stagwell Holding Company.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jesh Sukwani. I work for Lenovo, and I am a global director responsible for all things innovation and partnerships.
I'm Teddy Jawde. I run product at Yulmo. Yulmo is a creative and media company known for ad formats and our use of AI.
Okay, awesome. So we'll keep this going down the line trend going, and I'll start with my first question for Craig. So tell us, how is Amazon Web Services generative AI and machine learning services helping companies to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of, campaign execution from ideation to analysis?
Great question. Thanks for putting me on the spot first. I love it. AWS has been democratizing AI-related services for over 20 years now. We work across hundreds of thousands of enterprise customers in this space. Recently, with generative AI, we've seen a large uptake in adoption for a variety of use cases in those spaces you talked about. Remember that marketers and advertisers are increasingly looking to AI to service age-old goals of driving their revenue, ultimately acquiring new customers, driving lifetime value, retaining those customers, and then servicing and operating on their behalf efficiently. And we see a full spectrum of adoption across those needs. So everything from ideation, campaign brief, and RFP type response automation, adding to efficiencies to drive that revenue and growth, and then ultimately, campaign creative optimization, and then the intelligence that goes around it. So it's almost full spectrum for the needs directly in our industry. Underneath that, we also see a lot of adoption in managing data itself, in making data mapping more efficient to support the analytics and intelligence, which I think is often an overlooked component of a successful AI strategy. And it's one we really look for deeply at AWS.
Getting into Assembly Global with you, Valerie, can you describe a recent campaign or example where you guys use Gen AI to automate creative production or optimize media buying? And what were the outcomes you saw there?
Yeah, so I have a few examples, actually, but I'm going to try to hit one top line. And it's not just Gen AI, but to your point, optimization or even targeting. And then there's some flyover examples I'll give you if I'm not fighting the wind too much. So one, and I'm not going to name the client, but they might be sitting next to me. We are working with Lenovo, and we're doing a lot in the AI space, working with partners and platforms. We're doing a lot at Assembly in a sandbox, but we're just not ready yet because brand safety is so important with creative. But we are working with partners, trusted partners, and I think for Lenovo in particular, we are working with a partner to get after the YouTube premium audience using content creators, so the non-skippable stuff. If you think about product placement in movies, we're working with a partner that is doing product placement in videos. So we're working with creators that are relevant to the content that would be applicable to Lenovo. So the viewing power is powerful, and they are dynamically placing product in the ads with a sponsored by Lenovo or a sponsored by client. And it's been amazing because you're accessing 14% of viewers in the YouTube Premium, unskippable, attention-getting, people who really care about these content creators. And Lenovo got 5.2 million brand views, if you think about it, from using the content creation. So that's just one example. There's another example tied to contextual targeting, particularly in the world of cookie deprecation. And again, it's another example that might be a Lenovo example, but it's no surprise we're on the panel together, where we also used a partner. And you think about Lenovo is an amazing sponsor of Formula One, and they did this huge activation in Austin for Formula One. But they really wanted to make sure that, like, that's great, they have fans, but how are they going to hit IT decision makers? And how do you get the intersection of the fan base and the IT base. And so using a partner seed tag, we were able to contextually target IT decision makers who are also Formula One fans with relevant, engaging, creative in a very relevant way, and leveraging machine learning, leveraging network, like network and creative optimization on all in, just being able to target, and that we saw, I think it was a 53% increase in viewability with leveraging contextual targeting, which is going to become more and more important, as we know, with the cookie deprecation.
Contextual is definitely a big deal. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing more about your collaboration with Lenovo. So, Jesh, for you, how does integrating AI-powered ad tech platforms impact your media planning and buying strategies, and what challenges have you faced?
It's very important. It's very strategic for us. So, taking a step back, machine learning for Lenovo is not a new topic. We've been involved with machine learning and ingestion of big data to drive better outcomes since quite some time. What I think has changed is the dynamic of being able to connect humans, and that is working with our agency, Assembly, very, very strategic and very closely in that innovative space of driving human governance and objective setting to make machines work a lot more smarter. And that layer of artificial intelligence, where we're looking to drive more and more growth and more insights, is exactly to be able to have a machine be able to predict and drive an outcome ahead of the curve of what machine learning is being able to do today. So machine learning is all about having data ingested and managing big data. AI for us is being able to work smarter and have a machine do all the heavy lift working, so that the machine learning can just then manage the data that's put in. Now, one of the areas that we're also very much working around the contextual targeting piece is also, and also the media planning and the creative creation, is to be able to ingest eventually all the years of different media plans that we have, and to be able to make heads and tails and stories of what should we be doing in the next 12 months. This is something not to replace human engagement, but is more to make our agencies, together with our marketers, a lot more productive. And that productivity drives better outcomes. And that's where we are at the moment when it comes to AI and machine learning.
Awesome. Human governance. I really like that one. So, Teddy, I know that Yilmo focuses on optimizing ad performance. How do AI-powered platforms help in achieving seamless campaign execution? And what future developments do you foresee?
I thought your examples were great. But yeah, AI systems are really good at processing a lot of data and making predictive assumptions based on that data. And that's going to keep happening. At Yilmo, for example, we try to capture all the media plan goals on campaign inception and then just have the AI optimize towards that. And historically you would do optimizations mid-flight, and that's just not as good as having a computer do it for you. You certainly need a person to make sure that it's optimizing in the correct way, and that's how a lot of these systems are being used today. I think another really interesting application of AI is being able to find your next customer. So a lot of our customers now are bringing data, targeting their users, and that certainly works. You want to serve ads to your customers, but I believe there's so much more opportunity in finding your next customer.
What trends and innovations do you guys think are going to shape the future of the industry as it pertains to ad tech? Obviously,
we hit upon a lot of themes and topics here already, right? It's about efficiency. It's about driving increased operational outcomes. It's about driving revenue and growth, but it's ultimately the data itself that is fueling that. And so that data, traditionally, we've really treated it as a commodity that's bespoke, meaning we each had a view of that data overall. Increasingly, when we look across the customer journeys and the signals that represents in driving those outcomes, collaboration is required to understand what the consumer is really doing, where they're at in their journey. And then that is the modicum, that is the source of liquidity that ultimately drives the intelligence and then powers those outcomes. And so I think what we're really seeing is just the start of an adventure where customer journeys are understood at the data level across boundaries that exist at the enterprise level. And we're going to do that in more direct ways. We see that with the retail media phenomena today. That data being collaborated around then powers the generation of recommended audiences, the automation of the media planning that we're seeing, the creative optimization to represent what the user's doing, and more importantly, the prediction of the next best action to take with that consumer to ultimately drive the conversion that matters to driving that revenue growth. So I think the efficiency theme plays out, but it's ultimately making more sense of data and gathering that data from increasingly collaborated sources to power the AI itself.
Yeah, I agree with Brian's sentiment and statement around the evolution of where we are today. If you look back in history, we've been through the agricultural revolution, we've been through the industrial revolution, we've been through the digital revolution, the introduction of the iPhone in 2007. These are all different phases and stages of our industry that we've been through, excluding the agricultural, of course. But when we look in the last 20 years of development of our digital marketing industry, the last evolution that we've had during the programmatic era, 2011, 2012, 2013, was one of those transformative periods that we went through. Today, it's just another way of executing a campaign. Whilst we were experiencing the digital revolution some 20 years ago, when we started beginning with the introduction of the internet and connecting everybody online, we're now, in my opinion, standing at the digital revolution era of artificial intelligence. This is just the beginning of what we are working in terms of ingesting data and the applications that we have. But this does not encompass, and this is not restrictive of this industry, but also healthcare, defense, how wars will be fought in the future as well. These will be all impacted by the ability to have those large language models and the ingestion of that data. From a perspective of a marketing and an advertising industry, I think you have to break it down into bite sizes in terms of processes, media plans, campaign optimization, creation of content and advertising. And I think those are the three key areas that we will see more and more innovation coming up.
And if I were to build on something else that you said, which is tied to collaboration, I think AI is finally breaking down the walls. I think, I'll give a good example that I'm sure we're all hearing about now with Meta and Google, where they now have their own open framework. You can pull it into your sandbox and be able to play with the data and get ROI. And I think it's super important because, in my conversations, it's unrealistic to think that a client is going to put all their money in an Amazon or in a Meta or in a Google. It's just not going to happen. I think that's what they were hoping for, years ago. But I think now it's really important for advertisers and brands to see the holistic ecosystem and measure it accordingly. And I think that's why the Yield Mo's of the world, and I think are the ones who are bringing the innovation. So I think now Amazon, Google, Meta, the big boys are really understanding how to collaborate and collaborate with one another too, which I think is really interesting. Microsoft, I don't want to forget them. They're like one of the leaders in AI, right? So I think they're all collaborating and finding solutions, just like what you mentioned too about like just finding the solutions for the advertisers to power. So you talked a lot about like the creative, the targeting, but measurement is key, right? So I think the collaboration and measurement is going to be super important for brands.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just the increased orchestration across systems, super compelling. What I'm really excited about at YieldMo too is just improving creative, because we have a stat that we share internally that 75% of the kind of efficacy of a campaign can be driven by a creative. And it's often overlooked. There's so much emphasis put on targeting and all that's important, but creative, I just feel hasn't had the level of kind of focus that it should have. And now with AI and these models now, you can increase the production, right? You can have many different versions of creatives, and that's going to enable things like better personalization, like your C-tag example. And that's super compelling, right? It's almost closer to that kind of vision of serving the right ad to the right user at the right moment. Additionally, too, we have all this data now that we can use just to be more informed. Like you were saying, why can't you just ask Yildmo or a system, like, how is this ad going to perform? What can I do to make it better? And I believe that those are going to be the near-term capabilities that AI unlocks. And yeah, it's going to be super fun.
Yeah, and I think from a brand perspective, what's really important, and this is something that we work with our agency, Assembly, very closely with, is the interoperability of data. And I think going forward, having meetings with the Metas, with the Googles of this world, I really do believe that we're coming into also a phase where the walled garden approach to protecting its data will slowly melt away in the background. There'll be a lot more interoperability of the data, less so in the media, and that model will be able to be applied across an Amazon campaign, a Yildmo campaign, irrespective of who built the actual model, the algorithm in the back, but that data will be applied everywhere else because it's machine learning. It's not a cookie. It's not an ID. It is an algorithm, and that algorithm has to be scaled.
Yeah, I think the IP is going to be how you leverage it. It's not going to be the thing itself, right? So it's like I think the strategy and the approach to how you harness all of these capabilities is what's going to be the competitive edge moving forward.
And we talk a lot about algorithms here and machine learning, but it is about the data. And it's moving those algorithms to the data to make effective use of it to power those outcomes. And to the points being made up here, the efficiencies that we're seeing around those needs, the automation that ultimately enables, allows us to scale to do more with the same people that we have today. We see advertisers and marketing related companies engaging in small to mid-sized businesses, being able to penetrate localized regional markets through the application of AI/ML, driving more revenue in their core businesses today by penetrating and entering new markets. That's super exciting to us because it powers growth for our industry overall.
Thank you for those answers. One of the last things I wanted to touch on was human involvement, right? Jess, you touched on human governance and how important it is. And in our industry, there's this constant fear of AI is going to take the jobs, but it actually stunts our growth as an industry because there's companies that are using AI and winning. So like when it comes to creative and campaign execution, how important is human involvement? And how do you see it leveling out as AI continues to develop?
Okay. So there are two camps of thoughts, of schools of thought. There's one camp which believes machines will take over everything and it'll be all automated. And that's the end of the requirement of human involvement. There's another camp that there will be extreme job losses. There will be no opportunities. Everything will be done for us. I do not agree with either of those schools of thoughts. But what I will say from a brand perspective.
You have a third school of thought.
The third school of thought, the Lenovo school of thought, the branding from a brand perspective is that the machine has to be trained to deliver an outcome of what we're looking to achieve. That requires an upskilling and a different skill set of humans and human interaction to be able to manage that machine. This has been done in the past when it came to the programmatic era, where you had direct salespeople going out, getting an IO, and then you had a sales team which was managing programmatic, who understood the space. And they were conflicting. Now it's all harmonized, there's just one team. I predict it's going to be very similar in the process of the stage of how we're going to get to where we need to get to, where we're just at the beginning of learning of what the actual potential is. And then we need to be able to upskill, educate, and the onus of that is with the Yildmos of the world, with the Amazons of the world, to educate the agencies and also the brands of what is potential, what is what skill sets, what kind of descriptors of tasks that we need to be able to apply to achieve that objective.
Educate, educate, educate. Does anybody else have anything to add there about human involvement?
Well, it just ties very nicely to the concept of, again, the IP isn't going to be the AI itself. Or the data that harnesses the AI is how you're using. I mean, that data is some of the IP, obviously, for individual learning models, right? But it's how you're harnessing it and going forward. So you need people to think strategically on the next best thing. I think they go together.
You know, I look to history for my answer here. In the English language, we have a term Luddite. And, you know, if you look to the history of that word, it ultimately harks back to the automation of weaving looms way back when. I think we're in that moment today, right? Today we don't actually weave by hand except when we're making the most artisanal fabrics, and we can appreciate the creativity and quality of that. But we've been able to scale and drive entire economies through automation in fabrics. And I think we're looking at that for AI and ML across industries today. I definitely know that we're seeing that within the advertising space today. We're actually unleashing our best humans to tackle the most premium problems and truly differentiate and move the undifferentiated heavy lift to the machine where it ultimately should be.
Yeah, I think that's all right on. And at Yomo, we think a lot about making things authentic and not using AI inappropriately. And you know, I can't tell you how many emails that we get just that are written by AI. And the last thing we want to do is you know, use AI irresponsibly and, you know, piss off brands. But there is a right way, like Jess was saying. You should be able to help automate and help kind of get more informed with just like having a kind of a co-pilot-like capability next to you. And that's how we feel is the next kind of few years of evolution of AI.
Yeah, I can relate. As an editor, we get a ton of pitches fully written by AI. And it's like, come on now. I mean, you know, I read articles for a living. Like, you could have thought about this a little bit more. But anyway, thank you all for this conversation today. If nobody else has anything to add, I guess we can end here.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.